I called my wife on the payphone. She goes, how did it go? And I said, well, it didn't go. And she goes, what do you mean? And I told her what happened, and she just started crying.
I want to welcome you back again for another story answering the question, is God active? Today, I'm here with Julio Olewski, and he is going to share again today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So my wife and I were, at the time, we were married, and we had one son already, and we wanted to have another baby, so we did. And at that time, that was about 24 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with lupus.
Oh, wow.
And so she was diagnosed with systemic lupus. So it's an autoimmune disease. Anyways, she always wanted to have a large family, so we wanted to have kids. So as time went on, the lupus was it was active, but it wasn't still in remission at points until we had our third youngest girl. And at that point, my wife was in a lot of pain. Like through the pregnancy, she couldn't move her joints very well. She couldn't walk. Her back was all her joints were hurting her. We just didn't know what was going on, if it was from the way the baby was sitting or if it's from the lupus. And then when she had the baby, she got worse. She couldn't even pick up our baby. Her name was Paige. She couldn't pick up Paige from the bassinet, and couldn't walk the stairs where we had our bedroom downstairs. So I had to help her, and we were like really, really worried. So we went back to the doctor, and he sent us to a specialist. And so we went to the specialist and in Chilliwack, and she was kind of she was out there, that's for sure, but she said it as it was. And she just told my wife, if you have any more kids, there's a chance you could die. Ooh. Because as you have children, it elevates your hormone levels, and it's not good. And she looked at me, and she just went, you know what you got to do. That's kind of what she said to me. Okay. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, you know what you got to do. You got to protect your wife. So I thought, vasectomy. It's not what we had in the cards, because as our faith at that time, we just believed in having kids, right? So I'm like, I'm in a dilemma here. My wife's crying. We're on the way home. And I said to her, I really think I need to do this. And she goes, no, I just believe that we have one more child on the way. And I go, what are you talking about? She goes, I just believe God has one more baby for us. I go, well, no, I don't want to take that chance. I'm going to do this. And she's pleading with me not to do it. But I made a phone call first to my pastor at the time, because I wanted to go see him. And I asked Father Wong at the time, I said, you know what, is it okay that I do this? And he goes, he asked me the question, he goes, do you want to stop life? And I go, no. And he says, I know you have 4 kids. And he says, and I says, yeah, we want to have more kids. But he said to me, he says, I don't see anything wrong with this, which was mind blowing to me at that time with where we were going to church. And he just, so kind of like, okay, God, okay, I'm okay. He said I could do this.
Right, okay, yeah.
Anyways, I made an appointment with a doctor in Abbotsford. Really nice old guy. Sat me in the office. Not old, I think he's probably in his 60s, but definitely a God-believing man. I could tell for sure right away, just how he sat me down and had a conversation with me. I was in there for about half an hour, and I'm oblivious to this. And he just asked me, he says, listen, I want to tell you that you need to seriously think about this to make the right decision, because men use this for 2 things. I go, what are you talking about? Well, he goes, well, have you heard of Vegas trips? I go, yeah. He goes, they never think they're going to get caught, right? And this guy's telling me this. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah. And he says, what happens when they get caught? Usually, well, they usually get divorced, or the wife will give them another chance, but usually ends in divorce a lot of the time. And he says, then they meet a young girl. And he says, what do you think happens next? I go, well, he says, they want a baby. And he says, then they come to me to do what? A reversal. And he says, it's very painful and it's very costly. So I want you to think thoroughly about this, just to make sure you make the right decision for yourself. So I said, okay. So that kind of blew me away. Doctors telling me this kind of stuff. I was kind of like naive to it all. But anyways, I went back home, and I still had my mind set, I'm going to do this. So I called him back, and I said, okay, I want to do the operation. My wife's really upset. She goes, no. And I said, no, yeah, we're going to do that. I can't take a chance. I said, because we're playing Russian roulette.
Yeah, you don't want to kill her.
No, right?
No.
And so anyways, I made the appointment, and she dropped me off at the hospital. She was taking our kids to the Catholic school, which wasn't far from there. And our church was actually right around the corner from Abbotsford Hospital on Mayfair Avenue. She dropped me off, and back then we didn't have cell phones. So I'm in the operating room, and a lot of men probably could, contest to this, that I'm laying on that table there, and I felt pretty exposed.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm laying there, and the doctor's ready to do his thing, and he just pops up and looks me square in the eyes. And I'll never forget this, because my hair always turns up when this happens. And he looked at me and he just pointed at me and he says, "You're not ready for this." And I go, "What do you mean I'm not ready for this?" And he goes, "I could feel your vibes. You're not ready for this." Now I had a split-second decision to make, because if I said do this operation, he had to listen to me. He can't deny me from what I'm told. Also, he's given up like money, and he's given up like doing the surgery on me. And it's, if it was a big thing to him, he's making the money to do this, right? So it kind of blew me away. And I just said to him, "You know what? You're right. I'm not ready for this." And I walked away.
Ooh.
I called my wife on the payphone. She's at home now. And I said to her, "You could come pick me up." And she goes, "How did it go?" And I said, "Well, it didn't go." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And I told her what happened. And she just started crying. She says, "I got to tell you what happened. On the way back, I stopped by our church.
Yeah.
And I went inside and I started reading my Bible and praying. And a verse came to me, for do not be afraid, for I'm with you." And I said, "What? Like, that's crazy. Like, what do you mean? Like, that just like," but I believe that's how God works. He works through people, and something happened there where that doctor, prayer, my wife, I don't know what it was, but something happened to in that situation that I fortunately made a decision not to do that, or we wouldn't be here talking about it. Because my wife did get pregnant, and she did almost die. She tore her placenta, like a 6-inch tear. And she was bleeding really bad. I rushed her to the doctor instead of the hospital. Thank God I did that, because he was he's an incredible doctor. And they were on their lunch break, brought her in right away, sent her up to a specialist who happened to be in that day. This guy from South Africa brought her in there. I had to pick my kids up. The doctor, his wife drove my doctor to the specialist, which was just a building across from my doctor's office. And this guy said to her, he did the ultrasound. He goes, "Well, look at this. The baby's still in there." He says, "You have two choices. Either you listen to what I tell you to do, or you're losing this baby." And he goes, "How badly do you want this baby?" And she goes, "Well, I want this baby." He goes, "Good. I'm putting you on progesterone, and you're going to be in bed for 2 months. You cannot move." And I'm like in my busiest season. It was crazy. I had to call for help for my in-laws to get out here to help me. I had 4 little kids, and it was spring, and it was really busy. And then she was in bed for 2 months, ultrasounds after that every week. And then she got hit with a lupus attack in her lungs. And they thought she had a blood clot and that she was going to die. The lupus attacked her lungs. We had good support from friends that helped us at the time. End of the story is that she ended up having our son, and everything went really, really well. Ended up having a healthy baby boy. And so at this point here, I ended up going to get a vasectomy. But yeah, that doctor that I ended up getting it done, he didn't mince any words. It was just in and out, done. Didn't ask me about who I was or anything. Didn't take an interest. So that ended up pretty fast. But
wow.
Yeah.
So that's a life changer for your son.
I think so, yeah. He still drives me crazy at times. I'm trying to figure that one out. But
well, maybe it's just what you needed, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
The point is that you got to listen to what your heart's saying, what that Holy Spirit's is. If I would have closed my options to that, it would have been like I wouldn't even be able to hear to even talk about this.
Wow. There's a text in the Bible, and it comes out of Proverbs 19. Proverbs has a lot of good little tidbits of advice, but Proverbs 19, verse 20 and 21. In verse 20, it says, "Get all the advice and instruction you can, so you will be wise for the rest of your life." So get advice, get instruction, ask around, look for things. And then it says, "You can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail." And as we heard in the story today, there was plans. I would have, who wants to see their wife potentially die? There was plans to hey, we got to change this. We got to change this course. And then God had a different plan. God had the doctor, had different people, texts in the Bible, all these different things. God uses so many ways to try to get our attention. And sometimes if we're just looking with our eyes just kind of blinders, we don't always see all these things, but God is trying to get your attention. So stop and kind of listen to okay, what's going on? Listen to the different people that come into your life. Not everybody that comes into your life is somebody sent from God, but I'm saying look at the overall picture, because there's wisdom to be had here. And God has a purpose and a plan for your life. And we can accept this. And the other thing is that his purpose will prevail. So accept his purposes into your life. And may God bless you this week and this coming year as you look for that. And I want to ask you to join us next week as we continue answering the question, is God active? Thanks for watching today. If this episode has helped you see God in a new view, and you're wondering where to start, I want to suggest reading Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. These 3 chapters will transform your life. And if they do, please share it with a friend and know that we are praying for you.